OKC has been one of the most exciting teams to watch throughout the preseason so far, and it has a lot of NBA fans expecting the Thunder to take a leap from that 40-42 record they had last year where they made the play-in tournament. Now, the big reason behind these expectations that OKC is going to go from a rebuilding play-in team to a contending playoff team is the wide assortment of young talent that they have at their disposal. And don't get me wrong, the young talent is fantastic. There's really no shortage on the entire roster, but it's not necessarily just the talent itself that's going to result in them having an improvement this year. It's more about how all of this talent works together and how this roster has really been built with a lot of intention, and that's what's going to make them truly great. So that's what I want to talk about in today's video, specifically what we've seen from Chet Holmgren, who is returning from that injury that had him sidelined throughout all of last year, and how the integration of Chet into the lineup alongside Shai, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, how all of that's going to work together to help OKC take that next step. If you watch Chet Holmgren in this most recent summer league and even last year's summer league, you could tell that he wasn't super comfortable just yet. The handle was a little bit looser than you'd like it to be, and there was just the general vibe that he was figuring out his role and the team was trying to figure out how best to utilize him. But so far through the preseason, he's kind of looked like an entirely different player. Preseason is whatever. Some people care a lot about preseason. Some people don't care at all and think it's absolutely worthless. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I think it has some value, but you can't bet all of your money on it. But I will say that you can get an idea of how a team is planning on using a player by watching preseason. And for what it's worth, Chet's numbers in the preseason have been really good. He's recorded 18.3 points, 5.3 rebounds, 1.7 blocks, and he shot 62.1% from the field and 55.6% from three on 3 3-point attempts per game. And he's doing all of that in just 21 minutes a night. If his statistical production this year is even just 75% of that, that's going to be a really good baseline for him in his first season. Still though, it's not just about the numbers in the box score. What exactly is Chet bringing to the table for OKC? What have they shown in preseason in regards to how they're going to use him alongside their current core? This inbounds play really shows the allure with Chet in the context of OKC's roster. He's going to get the ball with Lopez guarding him, and bear in mind, Lopez is a center. He's pulled out all the way to the perimeter to guard Chet. Chet's going to pump fake, and first of all, it's worth pointing out, he does a really good job of selling this pump fake. It doesn't look obvious really. Once Lopez bites, he's going to drive on the closeout, and the first issue that he's going to run into is Giannis is going to be waiting there to provide help, so actually driving and getting to the rim is going to be a little bit more difficult. It doesn't really matter though, because Chet makes use of a complete lack of defense around him, and he's just going to stop and pop for the easy floater. We usually see guards take and make floaters like this, but seeing a guy who's 7'1" doing it is kind of bizarre. Generally speaking, all of the off-ball stuff that we've seen from him so far has been really good. This delay set with Sar up top is going to have Chet receiving what initially looks like a screen to receive the ball so that he can then curl towards the basket. Chet's defender is going to step in front of him to prevent him from using the screen to get to the ball. The second that that front comes, he instead is going to explode towards the basket on a dive, with Sar finding him in stride, and even though the help comes, Chet has the ability to pull the ball into his body before it can be poked away, and then he just rises to the basket and finishes. Now, this possession, in my opinion, was arguably the best offensive possession of OKC's entire preseason so far. It initially starts off with a standard pick and roll setup between Giddey and Chet, but they don't really get what they're looking for, so Chet just pops out to the perimeter to get the ball from Giddey. Without hesitating, he then gets into a dribble handoff with J-Dub. Again, they're not really going to see what they want, so the ball goes back out to Giddey up top and they relocate. Then we're going to get Shai coming up to screen for Giddey, and he's going to ghost it while Giddey attacks, and Giannis is going to follow Giddey on the drive. Giddey's going to manage to get past Beasley, and this prompts Thanasis to slide over from the corner to provide help. And the hard work that they put in through the entire possession gets Chet a wide open look in the corner. That's just beautiful basketball. Quick decisions, constant movement, everybody on the same page. It's exactly the kind of stuff that you want to see from a group of young players. And when you're talking about OKC and particularly what Chet brings to the table, you have to talk about spacing. because it's arguably the most important thing for OKC. We all know that one of the biggest draws with Chet is the fact that he projects to be one of the best floor spacing bigs in the entire NBA for the foreseeable future. And with that is going to come a lot of opportunity to generate offense using that space that he provides. A very common thing that people bring up with OKC is how much as a team they drive. But I think this graph really puts it into perspective just how head and shoulders above the rest of the league OKC is when it comes to generating points off of drives. The thing is though, OKC had to work harder for those drives last year because they were the 17th overall three-point shooting team last season. That comes with some pretty heavy limitations on their spacing. If defenses are more reluctant to close out on shooters, that's less space to work with inside the arc. But so far through the preseason, OKC's been the 7th best three-point shooting team, albeit on a much smaller sample size, but this is still really promising. Another aspect that's really important here is how Giddey and Chet are going to play off of one another. Giddey has kind of looked like an entirely different player so far. This transition opportunity really stood out to me because he's in a 3-on-1 situation, yet still he manages to be patient to fend off Connaughton, getting into the paint against Beasley and Lillard, and then he uses his size to muscle Beasley off of his spot, and he just rises to put the shot in. On top of this, it already seems like him and Chet have some solid synergy. This play encapsulates the value of both Chet and Giddey being on the floor together and the potential for a strong two-man game to emerge. Giddey's going to be bringing it up in early offense, and the pick and roll setup gets started between him and Chet. Chet's coming as though he's going to screen hard on Connaughton, but with Lopez showing more on Giddey as if he's going to soft hedge, Chet's going to slip the screen to dive towards the basket into open space, and it leads to an easy 2 points. Now, if we rewind, in theory, Giannis could have come over to provide help to deter Chet at the rim, but all this would have done is leave the kick out open to J-Dub in the corner, creating either another shot opportunity or a chance for J-Dub to continue to develop the advantage. Also worth pointing out is Giddey's confidence attacking the rim doesn't just extend to transition play. He's even looked solid attacking off the dribble in the half court, creating opportunities like this one where he forces the defense to step up from the baseline, leaving open dump-offs to Chet for the finish. On this possession, it's Chet attacking the basket out of the post up on Giannis, and Giddey finds his way into open space in the paint. Once Chet starts to get near the rim, Connaughton brings that help, but Giddey's going to find Dort, and Dort's able to attack off the catch so that he can get to the rim for the finish. This last play that I want to talk about is, in my opinion, the most promising thing that we saw from Giddey. And the funny thing is, it didn't even result in a made shot. He first does a really great job of dealing with some tight pressure from Beauchamp, and he's going to attack the middle of the floor so that he can force the nail help from Cam Payne, and that draws the coverage away from the wing. Once that defense collapses, he's going to use a nice pass fake to get Payne rotating to the corner, and it leaves J-Dub open for the catch and shoot look. And speaking of J-Dub, let's go ahead and talk about him because I think he's in a pretty interesting position coming off of that rookie season. After what we saw him do over the course of the last half of the season last year, I really don't see a ton of reasons why he can't develop into a future star. And there's actually some data that backs this idea up. The graphs that I'm going to show you, I came across on Twitter courtesy of Ben Pfeiffer. I'm sure some of you guys follow him or are already subscribed to him, but definitely go check him out on Twitter and on YouTube. He does really, really good work. Anyways, these graphs show Jalen Williams' estimated plus minus on a 30-game moving average throughout his career so far, compared to some other star wings. If you don't know what estimated plus minus is, here's a quick summary. Pause the video if you want to read it. I don't love advanced stats, but I think EPM is one of the few advanced stats that actually does a good job of measuring impact and predicting the trajectory of a player. But stacking Jalen Williams up to some of his peers, this kind of trajectory suggests that he's definitely got star upside. Even compared to a group of guys in a higher tier, he's in really good company and he's on a pretty high trajectory already. Now, I'm not saying that J-Dub is going to be as good as Luka. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Shai or Tatum. These numbers don't always tell the whole story, but I think they really drive home the notion that Jalen Williams isn't just some ceiling-capped older rookie. He's done nothing but continuously get better so far throughout his career, and he's probably going to keep getting better. What's funny about this OKC team is that I've gone through a lot of this video and I've barely talked about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I could go on and on for a long time about everything that he is fantastic at. But the fact of the matter is that Everything that the front office is doing right now is being done with the intention of maximizing everything that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can do. Obviously, as the season goes on, the roster is probably going to start taking a clearer shape. Some guys are going to get cut. Some guys are going to get traded. This team isn't just going to get significantly better. They're going to get significantly better fast. I think some people are putting some pretty lofty expectations on OKC. Some people think they're going to be as high as a top 3 seed in the West. Is it possible that that happens? Yeah, anything is possible. Realistically though, I think anywhere in the 5 to 7 range is feasible, and I think it's a lot more likely that OKC just makes the playoffs outright than it is that they have to go through the play-in tournament to get there. If you guys enjoyed this video and it's your first time checking out my channel, first of all, thank you. Second of all, if you like what you saw and you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, turn on that notification bell, all that fun stuff. Season's right around the corner, starting next week, so you don't want to miss anything that I got coming down the pipeline. As always, huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.